Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen carefully because this message is going to change the way you see yourself, the way you see your work, and the way you see your future. Too many of us have been conditioned to believe that success in life is about finding a job. But let me tell you, today, God never said go look for a job. That's a human idea, not a kingdom idea. When God created man, he placed him in a garden, not in an office. He gave him dominion, not employment. He gave him responsibility, not a paycheck. The first thing God did was give man an assignment, not a salary. He said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion. That doesn't sound like job seeking to me. That sounds like leadership, creativity, and entrepreneurship. The problem with the system of this world is that it has reduced God's greatest creation, mankind, to mere job seekers instead of visionaries, innovators, and rulers. We were never designed to be trapped in the cycle of working for someone else's dream while our own visions die inside of us. We were born to create, to produce, and to fulfill a divine assignment. Let's look at Jesus for a moment. He never had a job, but he fulfilled his purpose. He was not employed by Rome, yet he influenced the world. He wasn't waiting for a paycheck, yet he had everything he needed. Why? Because he was operating in his gift. And that's the key right there, your gift. Your job is what they pay you to do, but your gift is what you were born to do. Your job gives you a salary, but your gift gives you fulfillment. Your job is temporary, but your gift is eternal. God placed something inside of you that the world needs, and he never intended for you to trade it for a job. He gave you a unique ability, a special talent, a divine calling, and he expects you to use it, not just for survival, but for dominion. When you find your gift, you will never have to look for a job again because your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. The real crisis in the world is not unemployment, it is undiscovered purpose. People are looking for jobs, but what they should be looking for is their assignment. The moment you tap into your true purpose, you will never have to chase money because money will chase you. Your provision is hidden in your vision. Your wealth is tied to your work, but not just any work, the work you were born to do. So stop looking for a job and start looking for your purpose. Stop chasing a paycheck and start chasing your assignment. Stop depending on an employer and start depending on the kingdom. Because when you operate in your gift, you will never lack again. The world doesn't need more employees. It needs more leaders, more creators, more problem solvers. It needs you to step into your divine calling and become everything God created you to be. When God created man, he did not place him in an office, a factory, or a corporate building. He placed him in a garden. And in that garden, he gave man a command not to seek employment, but to exercise dominion. God said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. Genesis 1:28. This is the first assignment given to mankind, and it had nothing to do with finding a job. It had everything to do with rulership, creativity, and purpose. The idea of a job is a human invention. It was never God's original design for his creation. God's intention was for mankind to work, but not in the sense of employment, rather in the sense of fulfilling a divine assignment. Work is not a curse, it is a gift. But work in God's design is not about earning a paycheck, it is about manifesting the potential that he has placed within you. Adam was given responsibility over creation. He was called to manage, name, cultivate, and expand. His work was directly tied to his purpose, not a salary. The modern world has conditioned people to believe that success is measured by how good their job is, how much they earn, and how high they can climb the corporate ladder. But this mindset is far from the kingdom perspective. God never intended for you to be dependent on an employer. He intended for you to be dependent on Him. The moment you start looking for a job to sustain you, you have already stepped outside of God's original plan for your life. The source of your provision is not a company or an institution. It is your ability to fulfill the assignment God has placed inside of you. When a person lives only to find and keep a job, they are living beneath their potential. A job can limit you. It can confine your creativity, dictate your schedule, and restrict your ability to fully express the gifts God has given you. But when you step into your God-given purpose, there are no limits. You are not bound by the world's economy. You are not dependent on an employer's approval. You are free to operate in the fullness of what God designed you to do. The concept of dominion means to govern, to rule, and to lead. It means taking ownership, creating solutions, and bringing transformation. This is why God gave Adam authority over the earth. He was meant to be a steward of creation, not a servant to a system. The same is true for you today. You were not created to be a job seeker. You were created to be a leader in your area of gifting. Until you shift your mindset from employment to dominion, you will always feel unfulfilled. But the moment you embrace God's original design, you will begin to operate in the power, authority, and purpose that you were born for. When God created you, He placed inside of you a unique gift, something that sets you apart and gives you the ability to make a difference in the world. Your gift is not just a talent. It is a divine deposit designed to provide for you and position you for greatness. The Bible says in Proverbs 18:16, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. This means that your provision, your influence, and your success are not tied to a job, but to the proper use of your gift. Many people spend their lives searching for jobs instead of discovering their gifts. They work hard, follow routines, and chase promotions, but still feel unfulfilled. This is because a job only provides temporary security, but your gift brings lasting impact. Your job is something you were trained to do, but your gift is something you were born to do. Your job is given to you by men, but your gift was placed in you by God. Your job can be taken away, but your gift can never be lost. It is eternal. When you operate in your gift, you tap into the source of your provision. Money is never the problem. The problem is people not discovering their true assignment. Your gift is the key to financial independence, influence, and fulfillment. The world pays for value, and your value is in your gift. When you maximize what God has placed inside you, you will never have to chase after money. Money will chase after you. Look at the great men and women of the world, successful entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders. Many of them were not necessarily the most educated, nor did they follow the traditional path of employment. What set them apart was their ability to recognize and develop their gifts. They focused on what they were uniquely designed to do, and as a result, their gift made room for them. Jesus himself was the greatest example of this principle. He never had a job, yet he never lacked. He didn't apply for employment, yet he had more influence than any ruler of his time. He understood that his gift, the ability to teach, heal, and lead, was his provision. He never worried about food, clothing, or money because he operated fully in his divine assignment. If you want to experience true success, you must stop looking for a paycheck and start activating your gift. Your gift is your wealth. Your gift is your key to dominion. It is the seed God has placed in you that, when developed, will bring you before great men. The question is not whether you have a gift. The question is whether you are willing to discover, develop, and deploy it. The moment you begin to operate in your gift, doors will open that no man can shut. Opportunities will find you, resources will flow, and you will finally step into the life God designed for you. One where your provision is not tied to a job, but to the divine assignment that has been inside of you all along. A job is temporary, but purpose is eternal. Many people spend their lives chasing careers, salaries, and promotions, thinking that security comes from employment. But the truth is, jobs come and go, economies rise and fall, and companies open and close. If your life is built around a job, then your stability is always at risk. However, when you live according to your purpose, you step into something that cannot be taken away from you. God designed every person with a unique purpose, something that is bigger than a job title or a position in a company. Your purpose is the reason you were created. It is the assignment God placed on your life before you were even born. Jeremiah 1:05 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This means that before you ever had a job, you already had a purpose. A job is something you do to earn a living, but purpose is something you fulfill to impact lives. A job is about survival, but purpose is about significance. A job is a means to an end, but purpose is an eternal calling. When people only focus on jobs, they limit their potential to what an employer decides. They depend on salaries instead of discovering the wealth inside of them. But when you walk in purpose, you operate beyond the limitations of a paycheck. You live by divine provision, where resources follow your assignment. Look at the lives of great men and women throughout history. Those who changed the world did not simply work jobs, they fulfilled purpose. Martin Luther King Jr. was not just a preacher, he was a man of purpose. Mother Teresa did not have a corporate job, she had a mission. Jesus himself never applied for a job, yet his purpose impacted the world more than any king or emperor. Purpose is the difference between living a life of meaning and just existing. When people lose their jobs, they often feel lost because they have built their identity around their employment. But a person who knows their purpose is never shaken, even when circumstances change. This is why God does not want you to look for a job. He wants you to look for your purpose. When you find your purpose, work will never feel like labor. It will become your passion, your calling, and your source of fulfillment. The key to living a successful life is to stop thinking in terms of temporary jobs and start thinking in terms of eternal impact. What problem were you created to solve? What unique ability has God given you? What vision burns in your heart? When you align yourself with God's purpose for your life, you will always be provided for. You won't have to chase opportunities. Opportunities will find you. Purpose is greater than a job. It is your reason for being. It is your divine assignment. And when you walk in it, you will never have to worry about provision, because God always funds his assignments. Many people spend their lives chasing jobs, thinking that employment is the key to success. But the real question is not, where can I find a job? The real question is, what was I created to do? The world has trained us to believe that security comes from working for someone else. But God's plan has always been for his people to discover their purpose and fulfill their divine assignment. Instead of seeking employment, we must seek purpose. Instead of looking for a paycheck, we must look for the problem we were born to solve. The biggest crisis in the world today is not unemployment, it is a lack of purpose. People with jobs are still frustrated, stressed, and unfulfilled because they are not doing what they were created to do. A person can be highly paid, yet still feel empty, because a job can never replace purpose. Purpose brings fulfillment. Purpose gives meaning to life. Purpose is what makes a person wake up every morning with excitement, knowing they are making a difference. When you seek a job, you are depending on someone else to give you an opportunity. But when you seek your purpose, you create opportunities. When you find your purpose, you no longer wait for someone to hire you. You step out and begin using your gift to impact the world. Proverbs 18:16 says, "A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men." This means that your provision is not in a job, it is in your gift. Your job may pay your bills, but your purpose will create wealth and leave a legacy. Every successful person in history discovered this truth. They did not wait for jobs. They found their gifts and pursued their vision. Look at the great inventors, business leaders, and innovators. They did not waste their time searching for employment. They found problems and created solutions. The world rewards those who operate in their gifts. The wealthiest people today are not those who have jobs, but those who have discovered their purpose and created value. Jesus never told his disciples to find jobs. He told them to go into the world and fulfill their calling. He told them to use their gifts to serve others and to trust that their provision would follow. He said in Matthew 6:33, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you." This means that when you seek your assignment, everything you need will be provided. If you keep looking for a job, you will always be limited by what others offer you. But when you seek your purpose, you enter into a limitless realm where you can create, lead, and influence. The question is not whether you can find a job. The question is whether you are ready to discover what God has placed inside you. Stop seeking employment and start seeking your purpose. Because when you find your true assignment, you will never lack again. The world operates on a system built around labor, wages, and employment. People are taught from a young age to go to school, get a degree, and find a job. But God's kingdom does not function like the world's system. The world tells you to work for money, but the kingdom teaches you to work for purpose. The world tells you to depend on an employer, but the kingdom teaches you to depend on God. If you are looking for a job, you are functioning in the world's economy. But if you are seeking your divine assignment, you are operating in the kingdom economy. The Bible makes it clear that God provides for his people through their assignment, not through jobs. Jesus never worried about money, yet he always had everything he needed. He did not chase after a salary. He walked in his purpose, and provision followed him. When Peter needed money for taxes, Jesus didn't tell him to go find a job. He told him to go to the sea, cast a hook, and take a coin from the mouth of a fish. Matthew 17:27, this was a supernatural principle. God was showing Peter that provision is always connected to purpose, not employment. The world system teaches that the only way to earn is through labor. But the kingdom economy works differently. God has placed within each person a gift that is designed to bring increase. Your gift is your wealth. Your assignment is your source. When you operate in the gift God has given you, you will never have to struggle to survive. The world's economy is unpredictable. Recessions come, jobs are lost, and companies fail. But the kingdom economy is based on God's faithfulness, and his provision never runs dry. The moment you shift your mindset from labor to purpose, from employment to vision, you will never lack again. You were not created to be bound by a paycheck. You were created to operate in a divine economy where your gift makes room for you and your provision is guaranteed by the King of Kings.